Sports radio personalities have plenty to say. They're next on a special edition of Carpe Diem. Hello, welcome to Carpe Diem. I'm Mark Rosenwig, Assistant Professor of Broadcasting at Montclair State University. Sports radio is livelier than ever with a combination of breaking news and controversial opinions. During a panel discussion at the Yogi Berra Museum and Learning Center on the MSU campus, I spoke with WCBS Sports Radio reporter Gordon Damer, plus ESPN 1050 radio hosts Don LaGreca and Jared Max about the current state of sports radio. I asked them how sports radio stays viable with competition from so many media platforms.
Entertainment, for one. The one thing that they tell us is that to be compelling, be entertaining, be energetic. The newspaper industry, I think, is suffering because of people get their information so easily. They don't have to wait for a newspaper. They get it right off their iPod. They get it right off their computer. But the one thing that we can give is opinion, but we can do it instantly, and we can do it in an entertaining fashion. So that's the hope is that I want to get my information from so-and-so because I like the way he delivers it. I like the energy that he has. I like the experience that he has. So entertainment's a major key. And that's when, you know, at ESPN, we are always told E is for entertainment. It's the first thing, but even before the sports. So you always want to make sure that you're entertaining the audience.
Jared, you're also at 1050 in the morning. Is that the philosophy that you use as well?
I like to go completely on my own. I don't listen to anything what Don says. No, I strongly believe that because for years people have said radio's dying, it's a dying breed, and I don't buy that. I'll never buy it because as long as we're driving in cars, we want company. And whether it be company that's with, if you're driving alone or you with others in the car, to have a voice speaking to you, there's a relationship there. And as Don said, you want to do it in a way that's exciting. I mean, we always hear to be entertained while informed. And if you can do that and provide laughs and leave people feeling good about what you're doing and what you're saying, and they can remember where they heard it because there are so many platforms, as you say. I want some guy to know that this morning he heard my take on the tragedy that happened in IndyCar racing, not that he just read it on his alert that was sent to him on his iPhone.
Gordon, what's your view of this?
Yeah, I think it comes down to personality as well, letting your personality come through. It can't just be, you know, okay, this is the story, boom, 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 boom. It has to be almost now, everybody has their take on it, but your take has to be something that people can relate to, as well as that, as Jared says, they remember. You know, it can't just be, you know, the ways that has been done in the past. You know, Don was talking about newspapers. The Pony Express, that had a great run. Newspapers had a great run, but it's over now. You know, radio, for all the talk about it's dying, it's you know, this and that, it's still, it's in your car, and it's still that relationship you have, and it's a personal relationship. You know, each person can, you know, I like this guy, I don't like this guy. I like Colin Cowherd, I don't like Joe and Evan, you know what I mean? So you can kind of pick and choose who it is that you're getting your information from. So personality, I think, is the most important thing about it.
It's also the fastest medium. I mean,
right.
It's even faster than typing it to Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Along the lines of as far as news happens, boom, delivery, that's the quickest
right.
medium.
But if we have this in 15 years, we'll be talking about how we all work for Twitter. I mean,
well,
really,
our brains will be wired. We'll have chips in there. We just think the thought and it goes out.
Do you guys tweet constantly, or how do you handle that, Don?
I was against it early on, being old school, but now you have to do it because I'm only on 3 to 7. So if something significant happens, by the time we get to 3 the next day, everybody's had their opinion already. If I wait until I get on the air, I'm way behind. So I want to be able to fire it off there instantly as it happens. I watch games and I've got Twitter up. Should they go for it on 4th down? Should they bunt in this situation? To talk about it 24 hours later is not going to have that same sensibility. Now, if I tweet it out, I could say, Oh, I said it at the time. You know, they should have bunted. Like, these are the things, it's now become part of a way to be able to communicate. And then the entertainment comes in. Here's why, because you only have 100, what is it, 140 characters, so you can't get that in depth. We'll do that on the radio, but I need to get my opinion out there when everybody else gets it. Otherwise, you're far behind. Minutes make you far behind now.
Is that, though, primarily a vehicle to drive people to your show?
Oh, there's no question. Yeah, that's why, you know, everything, my tweets and Jared's, because we work for ESPN, automatically go to espnnewyork.com. So it's all intertwined there, and it's a great way to let everybody know. Sure.
It's great for interaction. It really is, in the sense of, I know this morning in between commercials, I realized, hey, let me tweet out this question which we were asking on the show as a topic. And within minutes, by the time I think we were back from commercial, I had responses, and then I can share either in the middle of an update or during the show. So-and-so tweets tonight's Jets game, such and such, and then you throw out, here's what my Twitter account is. You can tweet me, and then people realize it is an interaction, and that there isn't this great separation between. I mean, think about it, in sports that we cover, never more than there is now, the separation between the athlete and the fan. At least we have people can talk to us and communicate with us in many ways. And I think we all probably write back and stuff. We're not.
No, I probably tweet more during the show because people are asking questions during breaks, or they want to talk about something else, and I find myself tweeting during the show, sometimes about a different subject that I might be talking about.
What about the athletes' use of Twitter? Do a lot of them, and we hear the stories about the Ocho Cincos and some of the other athletes and so on, Rashad Mendenhall tweeting inappropriate comments and things like that. Do they not know how to handle the new technology? And
don't hit send.
And do they need to have public relations operatives doing this for them?
Yeah, I talked to Howard Cross, who I do This Week in Football with, and he always says the world is flat. You know, nowadays with Twitter and social media being what it is, and TMZ, there's nothing that you're going to do in a public arena if you're a player that is probably not going to get found out about if you continue to do, you know, especially with Twitter or, you know, whatever. I mean, with TMZ and the search for gossip on all these guys now, the wall has never been thinner between fan and athlete, but that's not always a good thing either, because nowadays with, you know, different forms of, you know, social media or whatnot, it can get players into a lot of trouble because they don't, you know, a lot of people don't think before they act. And now, you know, with that little phone, there's always a record of it. So it's a dangerous thing sometimes too.
I think Donald would say the same thing, because it's ESPN policy. I know the thought is, if you wouldn't say it on the air, don't tweet it.
The use of social media is only one challenge facing sports media today. Another challenge involves sports media people handling both reporting of facts and giving opinions on the air. Don LaGreca and Jared Max deliver both. The issue is also top of mind for WCBS Radio's Gordon Damer.
Well, for CBS Radio, like, these guys are talking to hardcore sports fans, so you have to know your audience. And a thing I always feel, and I always tell people, you know, it's all about who you're talking to. You know, it's all well and good to say, okay, these are the stories, but does your audience care? You know, like, I'm talking to CBS Radio listeners. They're not the diehard sports fans. They're not, you know, a lot of times I look at it.
But many are, obviously.
Some are,
but just not
but
the
you
mainstay.
have to formulate what you're doing to take everybody in. And, you know, like, my listeners probably don't care what Derek Jeter's hitting against left-handed relievers. You know what I mean? Like, that's a little bit too inside sports to care about. So I am looking for more of the entertainment angle, but you always have to keep it a little bit separate. But as far as who you're talking to, I think that's the important thing. Like, these guys are talking to diehard sports fans. I'm not. So to me, I'm always going to have a little bit more of an entertainment, tell a joke, you know, bring it all, you know, bring in the audience together. Because a lot of times it's, you know, soccer moms driving their kids to school or something like that I'm talking to.
Waiting for traffic and weather on the 8s.
Right, exactly. I'm just trying not to lose the audience before traffic and weather. That's what it's all about.
But I think Jared and I are in a unique situation because we're asked to be hosts, and we're also asked to do our own updates.
It's kind of a new kind of...
Which has never been done before, and I quite frankly don't like, because now that's blurring the line. Because when I'm an update guy, like if I'm Gordon Damer, Gordon's not going to tell you that quarterback stinks, or, you know, they need to make a trade. He's giving you the fact because it's an update.
That's a sarcastic way.
Right. There's backhanded ways.
But I think an update's sacred in the sense that I am a news person, I'm conveying the news. Now, when I'm the host, now I'm free to just give my opinion. I think they should make that trade. I think they should get rid of this guy. They should fire that coach. I don't think in an update you should say, you know, the Yankees lose to the Tigers and Joe Girardi should be fired. That's not for an update. That's information. Now, when you host, now you can have that opinion. But that's where we have trouble because it's the same guy.
Well, are they doing that to save money?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
He's been there longer. I can't say that.
I mean, that's what it sounds.
Well, there are some definite issues in that we have a music bed underneath. So that's your Sports Center tone. Let's say it'll go 90 seconds to 2 minutes. I do a Sports Center report, and I've noticed that in recent weeks. Here and there, as I feel as the show goes on more comfortably, I'll start throwing in an opinion. Not so much an opinion, but something that's teasing ahead to something in the show. Or I might turn to the guy who's in the studio with me and ask him a question in the middle, just to kind of keep it conversational so that it's not so much, all right, now I'm on being sports update guy, and now after the sports update comes, you know, we use a separator, like you'll hear some kind of sound effect, this is maxed out in the morning, and they'll come back, and once they come back, at that point I'll take a step back, and then I can go into much more of a conversational tone as opposed to the update. But I think where the blur is from, it's not necessarily conveyed to us the right way to do it, because I know there was something, I've only been at ESPN for about 6 months or so. I mean, I was at CBS for a long time, and very different rules with CBS, and you can't assume that the rules, what one company wants is what the other wants. I did updates for a long time, and you
had much more opinion in your updates at CBS than you would at ESPN.
Yeah, a lot more.
Because
a lot more. And then when on one day when I threw something out there that was, you know, kind of my typical, you know, throwing it out there, wrong place to do it. As I learned, you know, in the Sports Center update. You know, I came to learn the sanctity of the Sports Center update.
Right.
But the two of you are kind of creating your own version of the separation. Is that correct? That's the best way to describe it?
Well, yeah, that's the challenge.
We're trying to, yeah.
Because now that line, you talk about it being blurred, because usually it'd be a different person that has their own standards, and then the host has their different, and now you have the same person doing it. Now, a lot of it's budget, a lot of it's, and I'm going to put my phone, everybody else got their phone out, so I'm going to put mine out there too, is that phone, I don't want to do that, that phone, this is ESPN's philosophy, or at least our station's philosophy right now is, everybody knows everything. Why we can't waste so much time giving information that everybody already knows, because they've got it right at their fingertips. Right. But there's still an element that could be sponsored. There's still a competitive nature to it because the fan still does updates. So they've become a necessary evil. So the feeling is, well, we don't want to get rid of them, but we also don't want to have to pay somebody.
You don't want to get rid of them.
Multiple platforms often lead sports media people to work for more than one company. Some work for teams whose games they cover. The question is, does the audience get objective reporting from those who have more than one boss? And how do those with more than one master handle it?
Well, it's a tough challenge. I mean, I have it because when I do the pre and post for the Jets, I'm a paid employee of the Jets. When I work for ESPN, I'm a paid employee for ESPN. So when I'm doing the pre and post, I'm not going to have a different sensibility than when I'm a host. So the challenge is, some of the things I might say on the Michael Kay show today might not jive with what the Jets are going to be, you know, thrilled about, but then I have to put on a different cap. You have to just understand it. Michael Kay dances on the line too. He's trying to host a show, have opinions about the Yankees, and then becomes a Yankee employee. You have to understand it. The credibility is always challenged from that aspect, but I think as long as you're fair and as long as you're upfront and know it, then the challenge becomes a little bit easier. But you know, it's hard to be two different people, because the audience looks at you as one person. You know, the audience doesn't look at me as, oh, there's Don the Jet guy, and then there's Don the Michael Kay guy, and then there's Don the Ranger guy. They look at, that's Don LaGreca. Don was just ripping the Rangers the other day, and now he's doing play-by-play for him. What's going on? You just got to keep it in mind, but it becomes a very difficult challenge. Here's the trick: no personal attacks. Keep things fair. That center doesn't stink. That center's struggling. It's all in the words you use. And I think when you're a host and you don't have another job, yeah, you can go and say, that guy stinks, that guy's terrible.
You're probably not going to get another job, too.
But yeah, you're also alienating other things, too. I mean, just you want to be fair. My philosophy has always been just try to be fair. Don't say anything you wouldn't say to somebody's face. You know, if I'm willing to say that guy stinks, I should be willing that if I ever got him on as a guest, say, you know what, I think you stink. I don't think I'd say that to him in person, so you know what, I'm not going to say it on the air. Just if you're fair, I think most teams and organizations will treat you fair. Not always, but I think you're going to be more on the side of the righteous, I guess, if you're fair with your comments.
Advertisers too. I mean, aside from working, you know, advertisers are probably bigger than anyone actually. The team, you probably have a better shot of your station or your employer going to bat for you because a coach or a player or a executive from a team heard something you said on the air and it really rubbed them the wrong way. I think our bosses are probably more likely to go to bat for us for that than if we're to say something that angers an advertiser where the money is coming in. And I know I can speak from, I mean, I'll tell a story. I don't work there anymore, so I guess this is fair game statute. but I had said something about there was a giveaway. Yankees they were having Dunkin' Donuts giveaway day, and they were doing, it wasn't donuts, they were giving away a gift card. And when I found out just a couple minutes before I went on the air sportscast that it was what are people getting? What's the gift card? And it was $2. $2. It's 2010 or 2009. 2009, and I went on the air and said something like, "Oh, and tonight, you know, it's Dunkin' Donuts gift card tonight. How much, how much on that gift card? $2. You know, that and 60 cents will get you a cup of coffee." And little
They didn't like that, huh?
They did well. Little did
Starbucks person?
no, little did I know that the station was just on the cusp of cutting a major deal with Dunkin' Donuts. So they weren't big fans of mine that day. I don't remember what the result was, but it wasn't good.
You know, I worked for the NHL network. I was paid by the National Hockey League. So when I did shows for the NHL, it was understood, hey, they're writing your check. So I'm sure they're not going to go for being critical of the officials or ripping Gary Bettman or ripping a general manager. We would maybe be critical of a GM. That GM would call the league. I was watching your network. They're killing me. I thought this is supposed to be, a show. Now, listen, they have a challenge because they want to be relevant. I mean, MLB Network, NHL Network, NFL Network, NBA TV, they're all competing with ESPN. So they have to be a little more edgy. They have to break news. Otherwise, nobody's going to watch their network.
You have no credibility.
You have to have some credibility, but in the back of your mind, whenever you have a job, whether it's with a league or with a team, whatever, just remember who's writing your checks, and are they going to be happy about what you're saying? Now, you have a credibility. Your name is very important to you, but
pick your battles.
You got to, yeah, that's the best way to
pick your battles, because here.
When Gordon Damer, Don LaGreca, and Jared Mack started their careers, the media landscape was simpler. There was no competition from the internet, but they worked together for a company many feel was a preview of the internet, SportsPhone.
Gordon, Don, and myself, we all worked together for I think probably about a good 3 years. When I went to Hofstra, and it was about 15 minutes down the road. We were talking about the shady area where we were in. There were some nights I remember where I'd be worried when I was getting out of work that I was afraid, uh-oh, it's the 14th inning. This game needs to end because if I miss this bus, I'm going to be standing on that corner for a long time. But it was an opportunity. We watched a lot of sports. I think we all got the basis of our, we got our chops down, basically.
It was a great environment to improve because you would do these updates every 10 minutes. So it was almost like that scene in Conan the Barbarian where he's on that giant wheel and he starts as like a 14-year-old and then, fast forward and he's all of a sudden Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Conan?
Like Conan the Barbarian.
Wasn't it Conan the Barbarian?
Well, Conan O'Brien has maybe changed the pronunciation of that. But you'd almost have to get better at it because you were doing it every 10 minutes. And it was like this great pipeline. And really, a lot of the people that are in the business now, Al Troutwig, Howie Rose,
Michael Kay,
Bob
Papa. New York Sports Radio is loaded up with SportsPhone guys. And it's like, you look at these early Saturday Night Live days. We were our own little like Belushi, Aykroyd, and again, minus the real.
Yeah. But what it was, the thing is, you're most likely going to have to leave this market to come back. New York usually isn't the place where you start. Some people, I was lucky enough to
See, I don't believe that. You know, like a lot of people told me that when I was getting into the business, and they're like, well, you're going to have to leave here and go someplace else. And I'm like, but if the jobs are, like, yes, you're in New York, and New York is the biggest market, but New York isn't only the biggest jobs. There's little, you know, I grew up on Long Island, so there were little stations on Long Island.
It's mostly locals who are on.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a lot of people who make their way to New York, here to there, to there, to there, and come to New York. But
well, if you want to work in sports radio, we've got 2 stations here.
Yes.
That's going to limit your opportunities. You might take a job in Chicago or Atlanta, whatever. But, you know, especially when we were growing up, there was no sports radio, or just the one in '87. But what Sports Phone gave us was the ability to be small market but stay in New York, and we were able.
It's like being like below a single A baseball team.
Oh, yeah.
Breaking in and
Pay was, I got thrilled. 1994, they made me a supervisor. Supervisor got to do New York Sports Phone, because there was New York, Chicago, Detroit, and then there was a national number. And
depending on who, you know, what your schedule was, you would do one of those.
Now, supervisor got to do New York, and he supervised the staff. And I was made full-time, and my salary was $19,500. Half of that went to the tolls, because I was living in North Jersey, having to drive out to Long Island. It was like $11 in tolls, and I was in the hole. But it was just the experience of every 10 minutes, the resonance in the voice, the timing. Like it's amazing now, like a minute, I know what a minute is in my head, I can tell, because just of all the time of going in there and doing the updates. Plus, we were able to cover sports. I remember you went to Miami covering Knicks Heat for the playoffs.
That was one of the greatest things.
Right. It was like a joke. Yeah. It was like I was getting paid. Like I wasn't getting paid a lot, but I was getting paid to do this. And like they were like, you know, I said, you know, I was thinking about going. You know, I was just thinking to myself, you know, nobody's going down there to cover this. Can I go down and cover this? And they're like, yeah, okay, sure. And you were like, all right, I'm going to go down to Miami and cover the Knicks Heat.
And we were like the original kind of, when you think what the bloggers are, the fight that they're fighting as far as being the redheaded stepchild kind of thing. That's who we were. Right. And I apologize if anyone's redheaded stepchildren there. But that's who we were, because it was the Sports Phone guys. But we still got credentials. Right. I mean, I went to Hofstra. It was closer for me to go to Islanders games at Nassau Coliseum than it was to go to class and going to Yankees games. I mean, I got to see Derek Jeter I remember his first day in the clubhouse. And I see this guy, it was like, he was kind of just strutting around. He's doing this strut. And I'm thinking, who is this guy? Like, I had never seen him before, and I'm thinking he's wearing, I remember this crazy purple outfit, this jumpsuit, and I'm thinking, who's this guy with this attitude? Derek Jeter.
From Sports Phone, it was on to radio for our panelists. As with any challenging career, there were some difficult moments, and also some moments they enjoy remembering.
I always like moments where I realize at the time, like, where am I? You know, like, I remember when I started at Yes, they had me fill in for Kim Jones for a couple of games, like doing, you know, reporting stuff. And anytime the Yankees win a game, you do a field report. On the field, you grab a player. And I remember, like, I was only there not that long, maybe like a year, and I hadn't done a lot of stuff. And it still kind of seemed a little, you know, like, I can't believe I'm getting to do this. Like, somebody's actually paying me to do this. And first game that I did, the Yankees won, and Jorge Posada, I think he had a double or something. So I got to interview Jorge Posada. So I went down onto the field. You know, I see the PR person. I say, I want Posada. He says, okay. And Jorge Posada comes walking up to me, and I'm like asking him questions on the field at Yankee Stadium, the stadium
it's
that I've
probably
been
up
at.
on the screen, right? Too.
It probably was. This is the old stadium. So it's like, you know, like I've been there as a kid, you know, since I was probably 6, and I'm doing this on the field. And while there's a little piece in the back of my mind that as I'm asking the question, I'm like, you know, how did this happen? You know what I mean? So that was definitely, to me, one of the best moments. I don't know, bad moment. Like there's always things that you're going to have to overcome.
There's those great challenges. Always plan that something's going to go wrong.
Sure.
When you go on location to do something, always figure equipment's going to break. Something's going to happen, and be ready to, when the you-know-what hits the fan, to be able to smile and keep going on and deliver your broadcast.
To me, it's always important. Like, I always think, like, before I was in the business, like, oh, these people got to a level, okay, and they're there. Like, they've made it. Like, now that I'm in it, I don't know about you guys, but I don't ever feel like, all right, this is it. This is, you know, like, you're always trying to do something more. You're always trying to find some new challenge. It's never like, okay, I'm on the radio, I do TV stuff, oh, I've made it. You know what I mean? Like, I think you're always trying to improve.
They always keep happening. Like, the best moments keep happening. Because at the time, you're like, I can't believe this, you know, my first Ranger game. And then I did a playoff game this past year, and it was like, wow, I can't believe I'm here doing a playoff game. or interviewing guys that I worshipped as a kid. So there was always those different stages. But the worst one for me was I was working at Sports Phone. It was the day that Bobby Bonilla signed with the Mets.
That was a bad day for a lot of people.
Yeah, but and I had no money. Like I said, this is before I was made full time. I'm literally paying to work at Sports Phone because I'm driving to Elmont, New York, paying the tolls. You get lunch. I'm making no money, and I'm on the verge of winning the pool, the football pool, and it was the Oilers versus the Eagles. And I would have won like $100. Now I'd be able to put gas in my tank. I had no money for gas.
Tennessee Titans, they were the Houston Oilers.
I have no money to put. I have no money in my pocket. I've got no money to get gas, to get to work. I'm too prideful to go to my parents asking them for money. I'm still living at home. I can't even get out of the house. And I think it was the Oilers blew a huge lead, and I didn't get the money that I was hoping for. And I got home, and I'm kicking the door down, and I'm punching the wall. I can't believe I got no money. My father goes to me, he says, listen, tomorrow I'm going to take you into work with me at PSE&G. I'm going to introduce you to my foreman, and you're going to fill out an application. You're going to work with me at PSE&G. You're going to give up on this whole sports thing. You're not making any money. And I said, I just can't do it. I want to see this through. And then a few months later, I get the full-time gig, and then it kind of went there. But I always go back and think, what if I just said, all right, threw my hands up, and I would have worked at PSE&G, it would have been a nice living, I would have worked with my dad, it would have been great, but I would have never done any of this stuff. So.
But the funny thing is, like, we're complaining, we talk about Sports Phone, we didn't make any money, but like when we first saw,
it was $7 an hour, and if you worked Sports Phone Live, you made $8 an hour.
Like when we first saw each other outside, like the first thing we started talking about was, oh, remember when we did this? Remember we did? So it's like, it's these terrible. Oh, you didn't make any money. You had all these crazy hours, but it's still the stuff we talk about. Right. It's the funniest stuff that we still remember.
But you found good beer prices in there.
Yes. But you're for $2.75. Three beers for $2.70.
The reason I tell that story
is
because. You're going to come to a crossroads where you're going to say, maybe it's not working out. Fight through that, because if you have the talent and you believe in yourself, you might not get to where you want to go, but see it through, because you make that. If I made that decision, like I said, I would have had a nice life, but I would have missed out on all this stuff. So you just have to sometimes fight through it, because there's going to be a lot of obstacles in front of you, a lot of obstacles you're going to have to try to overcome.
Special thanks to Dave Kaplan from the Yogi Berra Museum and Learning Center and WCBS Radio's Tom Kaminsky for making this panel possible. For more information on this or any edition of Carpe Diem, contact us at carpediem@mail.montclair.edu or call 973-655-5158. I'm Mark Rosenwig. For all of us at Montclair State University, thanks for watching Carpe Diem.